right. In this episode, I'm interviewing Matthew Chu, who is the co-founder and CPO of EON Protocol. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lee. I'm a great fan. I know most of the guys that comes on board will say they're a great fan, but like I shared before, one of your podcasts literally stopped me at my tracks. So I am indeed a fanboy.
Awesome, man. I'm super excited to have my first fan with you, man. That's a really great thing. So yeah, we had a brief discussion a few weeks ago about your background and some of the things you wanted to chat about today. But before we dive into those topics, what I'd like you to do is tell us a little bit about yourself and your startup journey. Yeah.
Sure. Uh, First of all, not my first rodeo. This is probably my sixth or seventh startup. But the first that had a VC investment. Uh, Prior to that, the other startups that I had was very much bootlegged. Um, had two sale and one exit. I set those up more as financial vehicle so that I can move on to the next venture. My wife tells me I have a 4 year each. I can't stay on longer than 4 years in any start or any startup that I'm involved in. My background, I'm a data scientist by training, but I've been in that so-called, the kids call it AI, right? But when we started off, it was statistical modeling and machine learning. So I built enough models to say that I've been in and around that game long enough to see it. But
Mhm.
having said that, I think the zeitgeist is very real, and is in the public consciousness right now, and then that helps developers like myself and my team and my other founders to really um, perhaps preach what we have been trying to build for the last couple of years. So
Mm.
roundabout way, excited. Have always been an entrepreneurial journey. I think I only spent 4 years working for someone, early career.
Mm.
Um, the joke is, and this is half truth to it, is that I don't think anyone wants to employ me, so I need to create jobs for myself. So and I never really left that. Several startups in several countries. My first startup was in Indonesia. Actually, it was in Bali,
Mm.
and it wasn't a tech startup. It was a very brick and mortar business. I aggregated villa rooms during off-peak season, and then I flip it to what we call TAD trainers who
Mhm.
bring their people off-site to do training.
Oh, cool.
And in early days, it was more expensive to do training in Australia than to do it in Bali. So that
Mm.
kind of worked well in the beginning. And then at the same time, the Aussies really love their coffee. And
Mhm.
when we started off during that period, coffee culture wasn't that sophisticated in Bali. So I brought in a roaster, I brought in a master roaster, and I created a coffee brand. And I sold those coffee and the coffee machines to the hotels, villas, and restaurants that the Aussies frequent. And that went well.
Mm.
4 years later, and here's that 4 year mark,
Mhm.
I sold that to my first employee. And then I left Bali. I went to Australia. And in Australia, that's my second startup. I built um, fi- financial planning software for financial planners and agencies.
Mm.
Why? Because it was a conversation that I had when I was in Bali, that for whatever reason, the Asian community wasn't um, um, tackled. Wasn't there was a demand, but no one's really looking into that opportunity. So went to Melbourne, took advantage of that situation, and then we went national.
Mm.
And then 4 years later, sold that. And along the way, had a couple of other startups, but more vanity projects than anything else. One thing I learned from the failures or experiences is, and I track back, right? Uh, any startup or any business that I build because of vanity or because of hubris, it's straight straight road to disaster. But that's my learning, right?
Uh-huh.
And then one thing led to another. Uh, co Lehman, you're probably too young, but Lehman happened,
Mm,
the global financial crisis,
mhm,
and the world stopped. Fortunately, I already kind of exited from that financial planning tech software business. And I had a friend who was just telling me that in China was going gangbusters because they were like the Chinese government was throwing money to keep their businesses afloat. So I
mhm,
packed my bag, went up to Hong Kong, and started investing in small little um, three-man, two-man team that invests in the stock market or the commodity exchanges. So that was my longest startup per se.
mm,
At our height, we had 14 teams
mm,
trading across different asset classes, different exchanges with different strategies. In teams in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Australia, and in Chicago.
mhm,
Uh, the strategy around there was slightly different. I'm not a trader by by profession, but I'm a data scientist.
mhm,
So I built software, built risk management tools, so that every port, what we call, that I invest into, one of the conditions is that they have to use my risk management software, so that I
mm,
can understand their trades and understand where the limits are. So one thing led to another. Um, 6 months before COVID happened, not that I had a crystal ball or anything, I started exiting from my various investments there, simply also because I was away from my family. Um, the success was getting to my head.
mhm,
I was kind of losing myself.
mm.
Took the decision to let's say, I didn't want my tombstone to read "Great Money Manager," right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, so decided to slowly exit. Came back to Singapore. 6 months later, after I came back to Singapore, COVID happened.
Mm,
So the big man upstairs must be, telling me something.
mhm,
So I rested for about a month. But again, I think I'm a pretty active person, bit restless. So, but I didn't want to jump straight back into a startup or anything. I went on a what we call a church-aligned missionary uh, uh, work.
mhm,
uh, Grovers, we went to about 4 countries: Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Myanmar. And we did missionary work for youth at risk.
mm.
And I think after 2.5 years post COVID, I think we had a touch point about 3,000 young people.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it was very, very gratifying. And it was also during the period I get my head screwed back on right, my
Mhm,
heart in the right position. Then I got excited again about, building something, whatever that is.
mhm,
And then Antler, the advert came aboard. Never had any experience of an accelerator or anything else. Never had VC money. I raised money, but never from VC. It was
mm.
friends, enemies, and fools, right?
Yes.
Many fools, but anyways, I have the story another day. So I applied, right?
Mhm,
So, no harm, right? And
mhm,
then interviewed. That was the cohort in Singapore. Interviewed, had a one session, and got accepted in. I said, "Oh, cool, right?"
nice.
Um, and then that's where I met my two co-founders, Alex and Louis. We hit it off quite quickly in the beginning already. I think all three of us have been there, done that, been around the block several times. Each of us have started our own businesses before. Uh, and we were looking at a different value proposition in terms of the marketplace.
Mhm,
And that's where we decided on this business model or this startup, EON Protocol. Basically, it's a decentralized data marketplace. It's a two-way marketplace. We match uh, AI agent developers with data set providers.
mhm,
And then we sit in between over a decentralized network. Our aim is to help companies that has, or small, medium-sized companies, they have great data sets, help them to optimize for their own business, but at the same time monetize their data set in a secure, private manner so that AI agents can then build better agents or agentic solutions based on the data set that is proprietary,
Mm.
but yet domain, for lack of a better word, trained. So that's what we're trying to get it off the ground. We are still at the, in a way, PMF, pre-PMF,
Hmm.
um, like any, self-respecting uh, startup. We've pivoted 2 or 3 times,
Okay.
uh, but the general hypothesis remains. I think um, domain-specific data is where the pot of gold would be. And now with agentic solutions and technology coming on board very quickly, every other day there's new advancement. So we just want to stay within this intersection of
Hmm.
AI, data, and for lack of a better word, decentralized crypto and blockchain. I know crypto is a bit, has a bit negative connotation around this part of the world, but
Yeah.
basically it's for us, is a economic system to incentivize players to or providers to ensure that their data set is secure. At the same time, they can monetize the hard work that they did on creating those data sets.
Wow.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah. What a journey, man. You've
Yeah,
been
yeah, yeah.
all over this region and started so many different ideas. I love the one in Bali that you spoke about. The whole with getting all the villas together and the coffee stuff. I actually lived in Melbourne before, so I can relate with that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the
yeah,
coffee
yeah,
culture there is huge, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So such a great journey, man. You in all the different types of businesses, you learn different things along the way,
Yeah,
right? That help you with your current business now,
yeah.
right? So I guess where do you see this going with agents, right? How is it going to affect your business moving forward? And how do you plan to keep up with what's going on every minute, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting, right? Um, uh, I would like to say we are a AI first company. There's three of us. Um, Louis is a network engineer. I'm a data scientist, and Alex is a uh, telecom executive, right? All three of us can code. Louis, the rock star coder.
Hmm.
Uh, but what's very fascinating for us is that uh, the AI is actually exponentially our output. We use AI to code. We use AI to do a lot of our initial, what you might call testing, right,
Hmm.
of our hypothesis and so on and so forth. And that keeps us very, very lean,
Mm.
and to be able to develop our core products along that way, which is very fascinating, right? Because
Hmm.
prior to this agentic revolution, you probably need another two or three other engineers to get to a prototype.
Hmm.
Now I don't need an engineer to get the prototype. I build off Lovable, I build off Ripit, I use Claude, I use
Mm.
you name it, Gemini. I refuse to use OpenAI stuff. So
Oh,
that's a there's a philosophical reason. There's no technological reason behind it, right?
okay.
So I use Claude, I use Gemini, Replit, Lovable, any AI tools, right? And I have like two screens, and all the tools are all over the place.
Mhm.
I love it. Like I said, maybe 4 years ago, in order to do a prototype of what we are envisioning, we probably need to hire two engineers, and just to get the prototype,
Mhm.
right? But having said that, it's the deployment or production, then AI will help, but you still need good people on board, because
Right.
that's where the main hurdle would be. From our point of view, is actually in the production end.
Mhm.
ML ops is exciting, but I don't think AI at this level today uh, is able to do ML ops autonomously yet.
Mhm.
I may live to regret saying this, because in 3 months' time, they might have caught up already, right? Yeah. Recently, I read an article about Devin. Uh, Devin himself, they use their own their AI agent, 50% of the coding by Devin itself in their
Oh,
own company. So
mm,
that's scary as a thought, and it's at what do we call a deployment level. It's not just prototype level,
mm,
right? So things are moving very very fast. But being a startup founder, moving fast is good
yes.
because you get excited, right?
Yep.
The last thing you want to do is sit there and then a year later nothing changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess also my personality uh, um, thrives in that kind of environment. I have undiagnosed ADHD, but this the signs are out there. I kind of knew it from way back, right?
Yeah.
But perhaps that fits my entrepreneurial aspirations, right? Because I just need to do something and move on, do something and move on.
Hmm. No,
So
honestly, a lot of really successful founders, I think, have had ADHD or ADD, because they don't do so well in school sometimes, so they're
yeah,
always like focused on the next thing, but they take action. That's the most important thing. They're doers, right?
yeah.
So
So
that's
having said that, I mean, I have a good two other co-founders, very complementary skills, right?
mm,
Alex keeps my head out of the clouds and keep me grounded. I have a good sparring session with Louis in terms of the codes and the build roadmap.
mhm,
So exciting, right?
mm,
And I think people don't say this enough, but having co-founders that's not only complementary in skill sets, but complementary in personality
mhm,
is essential, especially these days.
mhm.
I mean, it's great to build something on your own, but believe me, it's better to build something with people that you can build not just a company, but a friendship with. So
Right.
that's really exciting.
No, 100%. I totally agree. There's this what's it called? This equation that I saw is 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Right? I
yeah,
think
yeah,
when you actually find that, it's so valuable,
yeah,
especially because you're gonna go through lots of ups and downs with your
yeah,
team members, right?
yeah.
As founders. But if you can get through all those tough points together, I think it's super, super, you make a super team.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it is early days still. We've got slightly under 2 years. Yeah, slightly
Mm,
under 2 years. But most startups founders pairing, if you can survive a year, then it's a good indication that you probably survive a bit longer.
yep.
So signs are good, but
That's great.
I'm prudent, and so I'll just shut up right now.
You don't want to jinx it, right?
No.
Exactly, man. Yeah, that's actually one of the number one reasons startups fail is like co-founder breakups, like
Mhm.
co-founder issues, right? So I'm
Mhm.
glad you have a great team and I'm glad things are going well. We'll knock on wood, make sure everything stays that way. Exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly, man. So, this brings me to my next question, with regards to agents, right? With
Mm.
agents, it seems like they can do so much for you, but yet it seems so, I don't know how to say it, like, I guess, uh, distant for the normal people
Yeah.
like me. Like, for example, operator the operator with OpenAI is $200 a month. As
Yep.
a startup founder, if I actually wanted to use that, that's a big investment,
Yep.
right? And you're in data, you're a developer, so you might know some of the more agents that you could potentially use and stuff,
Yep.
right? At what stage or how far are we as a society away from the random person, like normal everyday people, being able to use an agent to start a business or to
Mm.
make their lives much better?
Mm. I mean, this. Thanks for that question. I've been thinking about that question for quite a fair bit because we've been in the trenches around this, right? Uh, I can only relate it this way, and bear with me. I'm a little bit pathetic here, but if you look at you take the analogy of a human employee. And there's this famous pyramid, right? Level one, level two, level three, level five pyramid. Uh, Essentially, level one is someone, a fresh grad who
Mhm,
comes into a company and then will ask the manager, tell me what to do, right?
mhm,
Then level two is someone, tell me how and when, right? Then level 3 will be tell me the goal.
Mhm.
And level 4 will be tell me the problem, then I'll find the solution. Then level 5, like yourself, myself, entrepreneurs, is we will find the right problem to solve,
Mhm.
right? Now, the level 5s, which is where the founders are, and we definitely need more of those. Having said that, the tools available to us now, I reckon everybody can be a founder.
Mhm.
It's a lot quicker and a lot cheaper uh, to test an idea in the marketplace. Now, like for example, you can use Lovable to or Rapid to push out a prototype on an idea, and you don't need code, right? You'd be great if you understand some code, but you don't really need code as long as you can articulate yourself via natural language processing. Type in your idea in there. They can come up with a website or a prototype of which you can test your idea. So it's in a way it's a tale of two cities, right? It's the worst of times and the best of times, right? You can, if you want to look at it one way, it's the worst of times because if you are stagnant and you are not, or you're either fearful or ignorant of the technology, then the times will run ahead of you. But it's great for people who are curious, who is happy to give it a go, maybe A/B test a idea, and the technology is out there for you to build, right? And for you to use. Uh, I still remember at that time when you want to get a URL, you want to get a website, you get a UX UI for you. At least you have to spend 50K,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
When I first started off at the beginning, right? The .com era stuff.
Mhm.
Now for $50, right? Monthly, and you can switch it off anytime. You can
Mhm.
test the idea out there,
Mhm.
right? So, I reckon it's great for anyone with a level 5 type of aspirations or even skill sets.
Mhm.
The ones that I really worry about are the level 1, level 2 um, uh, mindset. Now,
Yep.
back to your question, the agentic world, right?
Mhm.
Uh, I think we're only probably a year, 2 years away, or even shorter, where you have your small language model or small like SLM, small language model on an edge product, your mobile phone, and it's fully autonomous to a certain extent. You could give you don't even need to type in anything. It could be verbal, right? Siri, I need to get a ticket to this place on this time because I need to be there.
Mhm.
That agent will do all that stuff for you and say, come back to you and say, okay, I got this. This is the timing. Which option would you want to choose?
Mhm.
We are very near that. All right. Once that happens, then everything is a floodgate.
Mhm.
I think that everything else, the funny thing is here is it's like the internet period. Again, you're probably too young, the dot-com era. The the breakthrough is all retail consumer breakthrough. Once you have retail consumer breakthrough, the enterprise will catch up. And then the enterprise will then become the big techs.
Mhm.
And I think perhaps you can perhaps even shorter than a year away, where that uh, public consciousness of AI agents will be a normal conversation. As to the skills of what the AI agent can do, then debatable.
Mhm.
But if the simple thing of reliable execution, like tell an agent to do this, it can be done,
Mhm.
right? Currently, it's already being done. You hard code some of the instructions into a machine, and they do exactly what you hard code in. What's special about agent is that you don't need to hard code, and they learn your responses and they get better, they improve. So every time you feed them data, which is having a conversation or putting your
Mhm.
text in there or putting all your information in there, private information. I mean, sorry, secure information within
Mhm.
edge. it learns. It's like having a friend who is always on, always polite, always interested to know what you tell, right?
Right.
It's scary, but it's happening.
Yeah.
I think the fastest growing so-called agent type of relationships is, well, I can't remember that company, but it's about um, uh, what do you call it? Agent friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's you literally having a friend, right? But
Mhm.
it's a machine that knows you better than sometimes your physical friends knows you.
Is this character AI or no?
Character AI, I don't think it's character AI, but it's along that line.
Okay. Okay. I
And
saw,
that's exploding, right?
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but that it's the flip side to that is also an indication of where we are as a species, right? We are the most connected uh, era ever, but also the loneliest
Yeah.
disconnected era ever.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of us, and to say that a lot of people get some connection with a machine rather than another human beings, kind
Mhm.
of indicate where we are as a species.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of this AI like conversation partner called Sesame. I think it's in its beta stage now. When I spoke to it on like it's when I was testing it out, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this thing sounds really real, down to like the way that it inhales and exhales like a human being.
Yeah.
It just sounded like so real. And the voice, the tone of voice that they use to change when they're talking about different topics,
Yeah.
it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, what's real anymore and what's not,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we are way past the point where you need to pass the Turing test
Mm,
because every agent, you give it 6 months, they will have passed the Turing test. You can't
mm.
tell.
Yeah,
So we might have a need to have a new Turing test.
they keep moving the goalpost, right? In terms of that. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
100%. I mean, what do you think is the biggest danger with all of this?
Danger. I think because I mean for the generation after me, your generation and the ones the generation alpha, I don't think it's an issue for them because they are digital natives. uh, they live online. They are used to communicating off text, right? My nephew, if I text him, he responds quicker than if I across the table, then I have to have a conversation with him, right? It is what it is, right?
It is what it is, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about that generation. It's probably my generation, right? Those who are uh, um, brought up in a world where connective skills are the high value skills, right? Where knowledge and the ability to ingest and then use that knowledge, that's the high value skills. Now, connective skills is not very will not be too much of a value in an AI world
Mhm.
because you can't compete with a machine, right? Absorbing knowledge, absorbing patterns, and how quicker, and so you can't compete. But where perhaps we uh, still perhaps thrive as a species will probably be in a creative and decision making. At the end of the day, as long as we keep decision making at our end, then it's good. Not to try to go. I'm trying to go back to your initial question, right? Um, it's like a nuclear plant, right? You can't have humans running a nuclear plant because totally right. It's dangerous, right?
Mhm.
So you need machines. However, the supervisors, the fail safe are with the humans, right?
Right. That's right.
So if you look at a world as such, then our new skill sets is around how do you make better decisions with the data that is provided and the options given to you. I think as a species, um, we need to make better decisions. The way where the world is right now, it's a series of bad decisions,
Yes.
right? It's a
Yeah.
series of bad decisions. It's not one decision, but it's a series of bad decisions.
Right.
And I think that leads me to my pet subject or pet topic, education, right?
Yep.
We are great. I mean, I'm speaking from an Asian education background, right? Uh, Great is a Prussian model, one to many. Everybody learns as much knowledge as you can, then you apply that knowledge, right?
Mhm.
In whatever specific sector there is. And everyone, the people that can container of that knowledge and use that knowledge to apply, you get high value in terms of remuneration, salary, and respect. But in an agentic world, you can't, like I said, you can't compete with a machine. So where is that value?
Mhm.
Then we have to then learn how to how to have critical thinking, which leads to asking questions, which leads to asking the right questions, and then making decisions in regards to those options available. Um, you do not want to leave your decisions to machines, right? Use a medical analogy. You can have MRI, you can have all that. At the end of the day, you still want a doctor to say, okay, this says this. Yes, the machines tells me that these are the readings, but at the end of the day, you want a doctor to make those decisions,
Mhm.
or at least a good doctor, right? I mean, not all doctors are made the same.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So the interesting part is this, and this is inversion, right? I think we spoke about this prior.
mm,
Uh, uh, Prior to the agentic era or the beginning of agentic era, the organizations value young people, value people who are more energetic around things and so on and so forth, and we need to learn, right? And
mm,
so on and so forth. But now with the uh, agentic and also domain expertise, the value is inverted.
mm,
People who are experienced, veterans, who are able to work with, let's say, an AI developer or AI engineer and translate what they know as experience into an agent. That's where the real value is. It's like
mm,
creating an avatar of a veteran in your business,
mm.
because that's where the institutional knowledge lies in, right? So there's this inversion of value, and then that creates a very interesting situation. But like my dad used to say, yeah, you need to have experience, but only way to need experience to get the experience is to actually do it.
Yep.
Right? So now organizations will then have a decision to make, right? Do I leverage all the people that I have now, right? In terms of the domain knowledge into agentic and prepare for the future? I think that's very possible. You don't need a team of 50 people. If you can use agents, you can cut that team, and as they retire, you absorb them into your institutional structure, agents and so on, from the domain knowledge. You keep it within the agents itself, and different specialized agents within your organizations.
Mhm.
And then as they retire, you don't really need to hire anyone else,
Mm, mhm.
right?
That's right.
Yeah, and then you have all the level 4, level 5 people who will then, okay, tell me the goal and I'll create a process around it using the agents. You become an agent orchestra,
Mhm.
right? A manager of agents. Then the question lies in the young people. Where do they fit in,
Yeah.
right?
But
So it's very interesting. I mean, I wouldn't have this conversation maybe about 4 years ago, right?
no, of course not.
I was
Yeah.
prepared to retire, right? Even if I'm not forced to retire, they'll probably bring me back to the back of the garden and say, yeah, go pasture yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But now it's different. Now, because people with domain experts or domain knowledge of being in this industry long enough to act, if you sit down with them, yes, there are war stories, but the key is to then take what they know that's in their head, put it into a document or process, and code it into an agent, and then voila, you have a agent that is not only technologically advanced per se, but is a domain expert in itself.
Well, you bring up a lot of good points there. In organizations now, all the information is siloed into like these people who have been with the company for so long, they have all this knowledge and expertise, right? And that's kind of where some friction happens, where it's like some of the young people want to move up.
Yeah,
A lot of them, they don't want to share their secrets because they're afraid of them, right?
yeah,
But if you have these agents now, it's like they don't have to worry anymore.
yeah,
They're the ones who are more valuable.
Yes.
So I could see it being beneficial, but I wonder, are there any industries that you can think of where it's going to be extremely difficult to get that knowledge and expertise from those top level employees into an agent?
Yep. Uh, the ones that are ironically the industries that are not heavily regulated,
Mm,
those are the ones that is hard to take from the head and put it
mm,
down on paper and operationalize it. The ones that are heavily regulated, because it's heavily regulated, there's work processes in place at every step of the way.
mm,
And if there's work processes in place every step of the way, it's documented.
mm,
And if it's documented, I can turn any document into an AI agent, or at
mm,
least my team and I, right?
mm,
From right data foundation and the intelligent data, we can do that, right?
mm,
It's the so-called unregulated creative. I need to have a little bit more of a innovative way to get a sale done. Those are the industries that is difficult to have a uh, at this moment to have an agent around it. Um, I know there is um, entire log of companies that coming out with what's it called, sales development agents.
yes.
I really don't know whether that works. Maybe as a mass outreach is like spam, maybe it's
Mm,
okay. But at the end of the day, I'm saying from a Asian background, right? I think sales in Asia, especially any software, right, is very much sales driven. It's not product driven. Which when it comes to sales driven means your relationship matters.
mhm.
I always tell my friends and the people that maybe younger than me, at the end of the day, it's easier to sell something to someone that you have a relationship with,
Yep.
right? Than to sell something that is cold to a cold relationship,
Mhm,
especially in this part of the world.
mhm.
So I think the real opportunity lies in the regulated space. Um, the very high connective skill sets or sectors, but the sectors that needs emotional EQ,
Right.
right? People to people, hospitality,
Mhm,
uh, F&B, right? Yeah, at the minimum, right, at the basic, good food, right? Basic. But what keeps me, or at least going back to the same cafe or restaurant, is the food is great, it's good. It need not be 5 star, right? It need not be Michelin. But if I go there and I feel that I belong, and the proprietor recognizes me, knows my name, then I will go there every single day.
I resonate with that so much, man. I've been to so many restaurants where the food has been great, but the service was terrible, and I've never went there again.
100%, right?
Never,
So
never.
if you use the analogy, so I think the real value is uh having, I know it sounds cringy, right? But whether is it a business or a personal relationship, it's how does it resonate,
Mm,
right? And you can't capture that in an agent.
that's right. That's right, man. I think that, there are some companies that are trying to work on that, where they're trying to work on the emotional intelligence of, machines and AI and everything. I just don't think
At
it's
least
gonna.
not today. At least not today.
Even still, man, I feel like deep down inside, there is something about our spirit, for
Yeah, yeah,
example,
yeah.
that you can't replicate.
Yeah.
And you see it in many different ways, but I don't think that that's ever going to be able to be replicated by humans and I mean by machines, right? Yeah.
100%. I mean,
Mhm.
like you and I are having a conversation right now. We have a screen between us, right? But we know we are humans, so slightly different, right?
Mhm.
But it will make a huge difference if, let's say, I visit you where you are right now,
Mhm.
and press your flash, say hi,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sit down and have a cup of coffee together.
Mhm.
That relationship will will resonate longer and deeper than if you just have a conversation with a screen.
Right. 100%. Like I know that I'm talking to you in a real person, but we've never met in real life before,
Yeah,
right? There's something about talking to an AI avatar where it's like you already know right away that it's fake.
yeah,
and you're questioning some of the information potentially that it's giving you. Now, that's not for everybody, right? I think, you and I potentially are very emotionally intelligent. There are people who are not emotionally intelligent that might just accept what they see at surface level. You're
yeah,
already seeing it right now with a lot of information that's on the internet. Like when
100%.
OpenAI came out with that new image feature, I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah,
very obviously excited because I wanted to test it out, but a little worried, man. Because people are going to think that everything they see online is
yeah,
real,
yeah,
especially like I don't know if you've scrolled through OpenAI stuff on some of the image generators stuff, but they have stuff of the president on there,
yeah, yeah,
all these
yeah,
different pictures. It's like, oh
yeah,
no, he did this. He
yeah,
did this.
yeah,
And it makes me really worried. Okay, what are people going to say later on when they actually make crimes and
yeah,
evidence is presented?
yeah.
I'm worried about that.
I think like every new technology, whether it's electricity or internet or anything, there will be a period of transition, right?
Mhm.
And any period of transition, there will be issues
Yeah.
that needs to be resolved. I think you will come to a point where uh, 101 in school will be learning how to identify a
Hmm.
real person from a AI
Hmm.
at the basic level, right?
Yeah, yeah, honestly. Yeah.
Right, at the basic level, right? Which is scary to think that needs to be taught, but it needs to be taught,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I mean, in this part of the world, we have been getting a lot of scams and issues,
Hmm.
and those are preying upon people who are not that digitally
Savvy or
progressive,
whatever.
right,
Yeah.
or savvy, right?
Hmm.
And they still reach that, but they hear on the phone, right on the phone, and it's an agent, right? It's a
Hmm.
robot, but
Hmm.
it makes it feel like, oh, it's real, it's no, and so on and so forth. So it's a bit of that, and it's a transition period,
Hmm.
um, which like everything else, uh, there will be losers and winners.
Yep.
uh, I think as a species, we just have to make sure that there are not too many losers, and if there are the losers, we can still support, so to speak, right?
Right.
I think that's important.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not in government. Um, I just spoke to my wife yesterday. I mean, officially, I'm comfortable, right?
Hmm.
Money is set aside.
Hmm.
So why am I doing this? One, I'm having fun. Two, I think there's something myself and my team or my co-founders can contribute to a slightly better direction of where things are going. And if that direction works and everybody understands that this is the direction that we want to build, then we make $1 billion out of it. That's a bonus, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not a driver. I think, which is why it goes back down to what we are trying to build. We're still building agents, we're still building AI, but in a decentralized, user-controlled way, and not being all into a big tech where there could be a future where only two companies control everything,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
that's a scary thought.
Yeah. Is that one of the reasons why you're against OpenAI?
100%.
That makes a whole lot of sense now. Yeah, there's so many monopolies, in this world, like Google, for example,
Yeah,
Facebook to an extent,
yeah,
and now OpenAI, they're trying to control everything.
yeah,
It really is scary, especially all these SaaS companies that are building off of AI,
exactly.
OpenAI APIs and stuff. They're getting data from all these different companies, or at least they say they're not, right?
Yeah,
But they are.
right.
Exactly. But
I mean, anyone who says that, oh, I have a view, I have access to a data, and I'm not using it. Okay,
they're definitely
cool.
using it. Because there's no way for the other person to tell if they are or not.
Exactly.
It just gets fed into this big database
Yeah,
where it's lost forever.
exactly.
You can't
Uh,
trace it,
I
right?
mean, there's this Studio Ghibli thing, right, with OpenAI,
Yeah,
everything,
exactly.
right? And you're telling me they did not take those data from a Studio Ghibli
Of course they
animation?
did.
It's like, come on.
Of course they
I mean,
did. Yes. Of course they did. Of course they did.
I'm naive, right? But I'm not stupid, right?
Exactly. This brings me to my next point about security. A
Yeah,
lot of new companies are coming out where it's, oh my God, this I'm innovating on this product, I'm using this new technology, this one. Do you think there's enough security companies also innovating, or
Yeah,
making the guardrails for AI?
this is a fantastic question, right? I mean, there's two ways I look at it. One, I think both of which are very, very important. One, explainable AI. We really need to know what we're building. We really need to know uh, why the AI produces the output whatever output they produce. We need to know how they do it and why they did it. I think that's extremely important. That's one.
Mhm,
The other track is more perhaps closer to um, cybersecurity than anything else.
mhm,
Um, what they call data poisoning, right? There could be a loophole, or there could be an API, or there could be a lack of security where the whole data can be poisoned, and which will affect the output.
mhm,
And if you don't have a mechanism of understanding why those output came out the way it came out, which is explainable AI, then it's difficult to discover whether the data was even poisoned in the first place.
mhm, mhm.
And that worries me. And to give you a direct answer, there is not enough, there is definitely not enough companies, startups looking in that area. I can also understand why. I've got a VC right now, and the VC tells me or us directly, we invested in you guys because we think you guys are a moonshot, right? Which means, like any rocket ship, you either hit the moon or you explode halfway,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
Right. That's the VC mentality, right? Now, but in the secure AI, explainable AI, it's a slow and steady game.
Mhm,
It's very much R&D. It's very much a modular step level type of build,
mhm,
of which at the current VC structure, it's not investable,
mm. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Then how do you then get that those companies get funded? The only way is government, right? But you don't, neither do you want the Chinese government to be investing in this area as well for the world. I've nothing to do with the Chinese people. I'm Chinese by ethnicity, but it's the way that it's governed. The US, there's also a different thing. Um, it's very much corporate driven.
Mhm.
So if it's corporate driven means profit driven. If it's profit driven, then security isn't would not be in their top
Oh, wow.
hierarchy of growth,
Mhm.
right? They don't want I think Silicon Valley mantra is get rid of friction, right? Any
Yes.
friction, right? Security
Mhm.
is friction,
Yes. Yes,
right?
it is. Mhm.
Yeah. So it's worrying, but to answer your question directly, yes, not enough companies are developing solutions and tools side by side with the way agents are going or the
Mm.
AI world is going. Um, Simply because the money is being poured into this side of the track rather than
Right.
this side of the track.
Wow, that presents a really big opportunity then potentially down the line where, a lot of these problems with AI start to uncover themselves,
Yeah.
right? I
Uh,
don't think we've seen all the problems yet.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the first stage of it is evaluation.
Mm,
I think recently could be a Claude article, I can't remember, an Anthropic article, where evals or evaluation skills uh, will be the most important skill for any person entering into an AI space. The ability to understand and evaluate an AI model, that will be a skill set that is very, 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 very valuable.
mm,
Because you have to understand, you gotta have ethics. Ethics there, you have to understand the technology. You also have to understand domain,
mm.
uh, and have the EQ enough to understand that hey, we're not a break build fast, break fast type of environment, right? So you hit it right on the spot and right on the nail. I think that is a great opportunity in and around AI safety,
Mhm.
explainability, and evaluations.
100%, man. And what I worry about is a day where we have AI agent hackers, for example, where they're so smart because they learn from various failures, right, of hacking people. They're so smart that they outsmart, the cybersecurity
Yeah.
experts and all the
It's
measures that we have in place. Because if this is the right trend, then people are already working on those AI agent hackers right now,
yeah.
and no one is innovating on the cybersecurity front. So,
So there's
yeah.
this there's always a lag, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
black hat, white hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, whether you like it or not, it is what it is. The black hat are always on the edge
Yes.
of new developments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to uh, uh, break security and so on, right? We need to have a lot more white hats
Mm-hmm.
who to counter that. Definitely. I'm not in that sector, but I think it's a very big sector, an evolving sector, and it's going to be critical. It could even come to a point where white hat agents and black hat agents, swarms of agents out there dealing with
Mm-hmm.
each other,
Mm.
orchestrated by uh,
Humans,
humans
yeah.
as supervisors.
Right.
Right? It's a little bit dystopic,
Yes.
but I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine. He said a lot of entrepreneurs build tech based on the science fiction that they read.
Yes. It's true. It's true. That
Right?
is true,
You
man.
even going down to the early days of the Motorola
Mm-hmm.
mobile phone, the flip phone,
Yeah.
right? If you're a Trekkie, you realize that that came from Star Trek.
Interesting. It's only a matter of time till we have lightsabers, man. I can't wait for that day. That'll be awesome.
Zim, zim.
Exactly. Exactly, man. No, I think, with what's going on with the world now, we have lots of coding schools. Everyone wants to be a coder because they see the value of it, right? They have coding schools that teach you Ruby on Rails, Python, all these things so you can make an application. But there's no coding schools out there that teaches cybersecurity.
Yeah,
There's none out there. So also see an opportunity in the education space, technical education space for creating more cybersecurity schools. I know
100%, right?
when I was a recruiter in the US, one of the highest paying and hardest to get jobs was a cybersecurity engineer, and I think it still is, because there's so few of them, So I think that there's a
100%.
huge
If
opportunity
you
there.
want to go down the route of education, right? There's a huge opportunity and space in and around educating uh, AI evals and safety. Not necessarily building safety infrastructure or evaluations, but actually using those tools, evaluation tools or safety tools, and then look at the models and look at the applications that are being applied uh,
Mhm.
in various domains. I think there is a huge sector there that is probably um, underestimated.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, autonomous coding agents, we are almost halfway there.
Mhm.
It comes to a point where you should put an NLP language and then it comes out with a codes for you, right?
Yeah.
But you need to understand, you have to have the ability to see, okay, I look at these codes, is it safe? Uh, is it built in a way that's meant for what we are trying to deliver?
Right.
I think those skill sets are very new skill sets, and it's a real space to tackle if you are in that education sector.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now I'm very interested in it. It's something
Oh,
that hopefully, later on in a few years, people will get more and more interested in it because they see the dangers of AI and potentially misuse of it,
yeah.
with everything that's going on now. So I do
I know.
hope, yeah, it
I know.
becomes more
I
prominent.
would love for you to tackle this area, right? Create a general assembly for cybersecurity of
Oh,
sorts, right? Which,
oh,
yeah. All
I'm
right.
I,
And
I'm way more interested in it now than I was before. So thank you very
yeah.
much for this chat.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then at the same time, I also feel that it has to be it will be regional. It will not be global.
Mm.
So Asia for Asia, because at the end of the day, culture comes in,
Yep.
risk tolerance comes in.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole if we keep talking.
Okay, that sounds good, man. So we spoke a lot about, AI and the future of AI, agentic, software and what it's going to help do with the industries. Is there anything that we didn't speak about that you think we should have spoke about today?
Ah, good question. Uh, where's the where's the best cup of coffee that you've ever had? Right? No, but at the end of the day, I think technology is technology, right? There is a famous philosopher who said we shape the technology and technology shape us.
Mm,
I think that statement needs to be imbued into the education system because people we are builders, whether you like it or not. Human beings like to build, right?
mhm,
So but you have to understand whatever you build will also shape us,
mm, mhm.
right? It's like we believe in a city, we build a city, the city shapes us.
Yep.
So when things that I guess we didn't talk about was how technology shape us, and then how we shape the technology, and it's how could then be that intersection of shaping technology in our image rather than the technology being shaped.
Now that you bring that up, actually, a really great question I have is how do you think AI is currently shaping us? Because I do believe we're in that state where we are being shaped by that technology and not the
100%,
other way around. Yeah.
100%. And I have a hypothesis around that. The business world has been shaped, excuse the pun here, via efficiency and productivity, right? And for efficiency and productivity, machines are the best. So the way we have been sculpted, and the way we have positioned ourselves or created work processes are primed for machine uh, abilities.
Mhm.
So we have been shaped like machines in order to do those productivity, to be productive, to be efficient,
Mm,
right? So if we have been shaped to work like machines, then it's very easy for machines to take over what we do.
okay.
It's interesting here, right? In order for us to be productive, to be more efficient, we have to work like machines. But because we need to work like machines, we have to create tools that enable us to work like machines. We have come to a point where the machines are already there. And then what leaves us?
Yeah. Actually, what you said just makes a ton of sense. Since we are, work like machines, it's only makes sense that
Matter of time.
it only makes sense that we've created a machine that will now replace us, right? To be more
100%.
efficient. Wow.
100%. So
Interesting.
the productivity and efficiency, right, is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the meaning, right? If you're, I alluded to this, right? I didn't want my tombstone to read out best money manager.
Yeah.
So the question we have asked ourselves: do we want our tombstone to read to read uh, great productivity efficiency machine?
Mm, hmm.
Right. This,
Probably
this
not.
this is a big question. It's a whole GDP question, a government question, right?
That's right.
Because the whole how GDP has been arranged and how companies and governments or even countries are compared are based around how productive we are as a nation and how efficient we are in creating products and selling products. So if
Mhm.
those are the measurements, then of course machines will beat us, and of course machines will replace us.
Mm,
So I think the deeper question is how do we measure value now?
yeah. Yeah. That is a very profound question indeed, especially with the way the world is going.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, man. I think skilled labor, like blue collar labor, might actually increase in value now, right?
100%, right?
There'll be a shift.
100%,
Yeah.
right? A musician, a hairstylist, an artist, a crafters, a furniture maker, right? A carpenter. Those skill sets will have extreme value right now
Mm,
because when products are IKEA-fied, right, then you get you will pay more for someone who will do a one-off piece or a 10 piece rather than a piece that is meant for everyone.
Right. Yeah.
So you hit it again right on the nail.
Mhm.
That creative side that is hands or touch and feel,
Yeah.
right? I think that's where perhaps the world is going to head to, which is a good thing
Mhm.
because I think we have neglected it as a species.
Yeah. Wow. I just thought of a really crazy thought, man. When now that you've say that, what's the point of going to college anymore? Because everything that we need to learn is online. We can just access it instantly, right? What's the
I, I,
point?
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say, what I'm going to say is not going to be the most popular thing, but I think college is a racket,
Mm,
right? Yeah,
especially in America. Yeah.
yeah, right. It's basically a monopolized, controlled money making machine, right? And unless you break that mold, and unless and this is why again the in my opinion, the beauty of AI, everyone now can have at least moment, right? A AI or Claude or anything that are PhD level in terms of knowledge and understanding. Again, as long as you're comfortable with language, you type in a question, you get answers, right? Which is why Claude I have a little bit more confidence in because they do seriously look at safety and evaluations,
Mhm.
a lot less so than OpenAI. Um, but which, by the way, they should not call OpenAI anymore. They just call it
Yeah.
closed AI.
Close to it.
Uh, but again, so now you can have a PhD level AI to help you along the way, right?
Mhm.
So why do you need a professor that and it's always been um, uh, historical, right? Even MBA, other than the fact that it's a what we call credential, there's no real knowledge behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I, but there is value. Where the value is that learning environment, if done well. Because some of my best friends I've ever made are the ones that I met in college or university. Because that's where you really try to understand, at least my days, right? Trying to find yourself, find who you are, what you want to be,
Yeah.
and everybody around that same age are also looking for that same, asking the same question,
Mhm.
finding it different ways. That's the real value in a college environment.
Yeah. Yes. I do. I got a lot of, good social skills and life experience from being in college as well. And I think that's super important at that age. We don't really mature until we get to like 25 years old
Yeah,
anyways, right?
yeah,
I think that's when the turning point for me was when everything clicked and I was like, okay, I need to get my stuff together.
yeah. But the question is, do you need to pay 300 grand a year or 200 grand a
No,
year for
definitely not.
that? No, right?
No. My view of university, if I could go back, I wouldn't go actually. I would actually try to start businesses and maybe do an accelerated program like Antler or others. If
100%.
anything, we should change the university model, and depending on what industry you want to go in, get a bunch of people who are interested in that same thing and then have them try and start companies or have them try and start projects that where they learn real life skills that they'll actually learn or use in the workforce. And then those projects or things will provide value to the society. They'll gain real world skills and still get some of the social interactions that they would get out in, university as well. So,
I and no, I know this word history does not repeat, but it kind of rhymes, right? We
mhm.
might be going back to the early maybe 14th century, the guild age, where you
Mm,
enter a guild to learn the skill sets, but not just the skill sets, but you have the network. So
mm,
let's say you enter a guild to I don't know a art school, right? But you learn from the masters, yes, but it's the network, the patronage system, and so on and so forth. So likewise, I think it would be better to get rid of the university system
yeah.
and convert all this into guild system in a very specific, perhaps, domain. And then once you enter the guild system, you are part of the guild for the rest of your life, and you
Mm,
continue to improve that sector, uh, be it with technology or with your fellow guild members.
mm,
Uh, I think that kind of world we are probably going towards back there, rather than a mass university where you and I are never an individual in university.
mhm,
You and I are a number to a university administrator.
mhm. That's right.
The professor won't know my name,
Nope, that's true. Yep.
right? Right? Will never know my name.
Yep.
But if you go back into the guild system, then your guild master will know you intimately, right? And there's some beauty to that. How do we get back there? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm Yeah.
It's tough. Hopefully, yeah, education changes in the future for the better. We do need to hold on to some of the skills that we have learned as humans. For example, creativity, like you said, critical thinking, problem solving, but most importantly, communication. How can we
And
communicate to people without our phones in person to date, right? To make society function and run for politics, for example, right? We need to be able to communicate with each other effectively. Yeah, so that's
and and, and communications, right? Two ways. Right? You need to be able to communicate to machines.
mhm.
You also need to
Ah,
communicate with humans. Two different ways of communications, right?
yes, yes.
Sometimes my wife will say, if she's a machine, I will probably be able to communicate with her better.
Probably, right? Exactly, yeah. It is true, man. And I think that prompt engineering might be something that might become a subject in school one day, right? Because if nobody has to
It's an
write
art form.
anymore, right? Then they'll probably just learn how to communicate with computers, computer
It's an art
language.
form.
Yeah,
Exactly, it's an art form. We don't know what that is.
yeah.
Currently, we are conversing with, well, at least from the masses point of view, is communicating with a machine via our own language. But if you code long enough and work with the data science enough, you don't actually communicate in human language with a
Mm,
machine. It's literally codes, right? Which is a totally different language altogether.
mm, I see.
Definitely more productive, definitely more efficient, definitely more spot on.
Right.
Right? But neither do you want to be direct, no nuance, and no context in a human to human conversation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's true. So yes, that hopefully we'll
Two
learn a little
different
bit
skill
more of.
sets.
Yes, well, hopefully we'll learn more and more about that as everything progresses. Matt, it's been a really amazing chat today. We do have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest left a question for you, and you'll leave a question for the next guest. Are you ready to hear yours?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, excellent. So the question that was left for you is, if you were able to undo any mistake, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. Any mistake? Uh, I may sound arrogant here, but I don't think I would want to undo any mistakes that I've done. Simply because I think as founders or even my personality, looking backwards is it's great to learn,
Mm,
but not to reset,
mm.
because we can only grow with mistakes uh, that you have created, because
And
you only
felt
learn
the
from your mistakes.
and felt the consequences of,
Yeah,
right?
felt the
Yes.
pain,
Yes.
right? Because I live old enough, long enough to understand that pain is progress,
I like
right?
that.
I need to feel the pain in order to change.
Yep.
And trust me, I have a whole s- backstory and battle stories around
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a great question though. But the answer is, I don't think I will want to make any changes. I will just like suffer the consequences, learn from those consequences.
Absolutely, man. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I think that that goes hand in hand with making mistakes. If you are
Yeah,
able to get through the mistakes, suffer the consequences, learn from them, then you actually learn. So I never thought about it that way, but that's a really good perspective. Thank you so much
yeah.
for that. Now
No,
it's your turn. It's your turn. What
yeah,
question do you have for the next guest?
yeah. I stayed up 3 nights to think about this question. And
Oh,
I'm still struggling with this question because I'm a bit of a fanboy, right? So to me, leaving a good question for the next guest it's the high watermark, right?
okay.
But I think I might disappoint you, right? Uh, it's a very simple question. It's that um, no one has a crystal ball, right? Anyone who says 5 years out, I will see what there is. But I would love for your next guest to perhaps give an indication of in 2 years out, how do they see the world, where the world would be? Are we tracking uh, a world that is better for everyone, or are we tracking in a world that is actually disastrous? And I'm not talking about climate. I think climate it's a given, right?
Yes.
We are going the wrong place. That's a given.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm not talking about climate. I'm talking about human-to-human relationships. Are we tracking the right way? And if your guest feels that we are not tracking the right way, then any suggestions
Okay.
to either pivot, typical startup founder,
All right.
pivot or readjust?
Okay. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, um, in 2 years' time, are we going the right direction in terms of human to human relationship, or are we going down to more disastrous
Yeah,
relationship? And if so, what can we do to stop it?
yeah.
Right?
Especially as technologists or as startup founders.
Cool. Great. That's a very thoughtful question. I think many people have different opinions about that, but especially the way the world is going right now in my country. But yes, exactly. Well, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I learned a lot about the AI industry and your background, and I think that a lot of the knowledge that you shared with us today will be super insightful for the audience. Thank you for being such a great fan and agreeing to come on the podcast here. And hopefully, we'll have further conversations later on as everything progresses.
Wonderful, Lee. Thank you for having me. And now I can tick one off my bucket list.
That's
Yeah.
a wrap for today's episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to share your PM stories, challenges, struggles, or insights with us on a future episode, please get in touch with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you on and keep this conversation going. Until next time, happy building, everyone.